Hi everyone, this is JT with Legacy Art Games once again, and I apologize for the interruption in session 3 with GM Tangy. Unfortunately, YouTube has a terrible sense of timing and interrupted our dramatic boss battle. But we are back, and I'm turning it back to GM Tangy.
Um, so right where we left off, where mid combat you are surrounded by a mage, three twig blights, a giant frog, as well as the enemy and the villain of this arc, Belak. Sharwin, one of his thralls at this point, is casting a spell, and it is color spray. The color spray hits, blinding you and Belak. It seems, and just setting this right. You, Belak, and a twig blight in the back. Um, After her turn goes, it will be Sir Bradford's turn, and he is going to continue fighting Dorian, the fighter. Uh, when he swings a sword at Dorian's short sword, not hitting with the 10, but almost cleaving it in twain. Something magical and is whistling is coming from this sword that he is using. And at that, Dorian will retaliate with a short sword swing. As he juts it at Sir Bradford. Sir Bradford easily parries it, smacking away with his shield, and leaving Dorian open potentially for a counterattack. All right. On his turn, Belak, sensing his danger next to this tree, as well as the tree itself being wounded, he is going to cast Cure Wounds on the tree. Healing for 15 hit points. Let's see how much it takes. Wow, taking another 10 damage. This tree is still in the midst of burning down, threatening to burn down and destroying everything under it. Um, However, he is slowly giving it back health. Uh, Something about this tree seems to be more important than his own survival. Two twig blights will continue attacking Kavan, um, making their claws now look like sharp, spindly knives as they jut them into you. Um, I don't believe any of those hit. With disadvantage, they shoot the spindles, and the needles just bounce off of your armor.
Yes, those would have been very much hits if not for disadvantage.
And go ahead, it is your turn.
Well, at the
You
moment,
are,
I'm sorry, go
yes,
ahead.
you are blinded, I believe, at the moment.
I'm blinded. Okay. So I cannot see that Belak's back is turned to me. I really can't see anything for that matter, but I can certainly feel the heat probably still in the direction of the tree, right?
Correct. Hmm.
All right.
And no one has moved, so this would be, even if you wanted to attack, you could. It would just be, I think, at disadvantage.
Yeah, I was thinking if I wasn't blind, well, he's got his back turned to me. That's advantage, but um, since I'm blind and I'm using my other senses here, can I? Just a thought. Can I track him thanks to the ring with sense of smell?
Belak?
Yes.
Yes, you absolutely can attack him. He hasn't moved or anything, so this would just be a disadvantage for one turn.
Rather than doing that, I'm thinking I'm gonna turn one of my scimitars around at the hilt reach into my pack and pull out the last book I put in, which was the Draconic book with the lamp and fire and depiction of magic in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to hurl it at the direction of the tree.
Sure. Just to, as like an FU to the tree.
If it's got fire magic in it, fantastic. If not, books burn.
Sure. Yeah, you reach into your pack and you throw this book at the tree, and it kind of hits the tree, making like a thump sound. Um, don't believe it catches fire though. Um,
uh, the punishments of trying to get clever.
let me put the tree. Let me put the book here though, just in case that's relevant. Um, a twig blight off in the back distance, actually next to you, is also going to attack again with disadvantage. Uh, both crit fails. Very cool. All right, next is Sheldon. And with that, he is going to move closer. 3, 5. And this time, I believe, actually, I need to see what this spell does. Before the end of your next turn. Um, yeah, I think he sends another guiding bolt at this tree. Sheldon whispers a prayer, sees that you are in dire need of assistance, and that you wish to stop Belak and the tree. But his goal is really just to destroy the tree. He casts another guiding bolt, same level, this time with advantage. 17 hits. And deals 19 points of damage to this tree.
Oh, wow.
Um, Sheldon whispers the prayer, and he sends the guiding bolt. Eldeth, bring destruction. And flying out of the sky seems to be this bolt of energy that kind of penetrates the top of the ceiling, penetrates through the top of the tree and the burning branches on top of it. And from within, this kind of glowing light explodes outward, washing the entire area in white light. Flying wood chunks go everywhere. The tree is brought to ruin. The book that was sitting there goes flying, and these twig blights suddenly catch fire, or at least the flame licks the tips of their head and shoulders. Um, and as that happens, something changes about the demeanor of Sharwin, Sir Bradford, and the twig blights. It seems they are no longer enthralled. Um, on its turn, though, the giant frog leaps up again to make a bite attack. Coming off from off the ground, sends a bite your way. 17 does not hit, and it is Sharwin's turn. By the time it is Sharwin's turn, you are not blinded. Neither is Belak. And as Belak's vision comes back to him, he kind of shakes it off and says, What? What has happened? My tree! And suddenly he turns around to look at not just you, but to his twig blights as they seem to turn on him. Sir Bradford essentially comes to, realizing that he's fighting someone that he has no personal vendetta against. He leaves. And Dorian is completely flabbergasted at why he would choose to do so. And Sir Bradford makes his way to attack the frog. 8 misses. We go to Dorian. Dorian finally makes his way out of the entanglement here and throws himself at this frog, swinging his short sword. He brings it down on the giant frog, hitting with a 14. Dealing 6 points of damage. Cutting into the frog's legs and thick hide. You can hear it make a ribbit. And when it is Belak's turn, he is suddenly, well, there is no tree there, so his back is not pressed up against the tree. However, looking around, he sees a complete wave of enemies. And with that, he elects to cast a spell. And he says, "Back! Back, I say!" And, oof, this is not great for him. Go ahead and give me a Constitution saving throw. You easily succeed and take 1 point of thunder damage. Sharwin and the Twigblight next to it do not succeed, and they are knocked back 10 feet. These Twigblights who have surrounded Belak suddenly change their tone. They turn towards Belak, stick out their spindly arms, and just jut them at him. This time without disadvantage. A 7 and a 20 miss and hit, dealing 2 points of damage to Belak. As he takes the hit from the Twigblight, he looks around him as if betrayed, and he says, "No! What have you done to this tree?" And it is your turn. As suddenly your enemies have become, well, not just allies, but almost bloodthirsty ones, as they seek to rend down Belak.
So at this moment, he's not so much looking at me.
Oh, yeah. He's looking to his Twigblights and why they're attacking him.
Alright, then I'm going to get into the story again here, rather than into just killing him. I'm going to cast Alter Self to appear identical to Belak, and I'm going to address him. And I'm going to tell him what's been done to the tree is what you would have wanted done. This tree was meant to have died long ago, as should have the being who was staked to it. I am the you from before you fell to this hatred, and I am the you that you can be once again. Come back from the tree. We will save you from these monstrosities you have made, and we will bring you back to the surface for proper but fair justice. What you would have wished for the land, you have since disobeyed.
As you issue this warning and caution to Belak, he suddenly becomes slackened. He looks as if he's a man broken and willing to give up. However, his assailants do not stop attacking him. As they inch ever closer, they keep attacking him. 17 hits, dealing 4 points of damage to him. And he is bloodied, he is bruised, he has spines sticking out of him. And he is looking ready to almost pass out. Sheldon, kind of almost finished with his spells, goes ahead and casts. Well, I think he doesn't do a cast. He actually walks up to the frog and tries to smack a hammer on it. 20 hits, hitting the frog for 8 points of damage. And at that, the frog and Belak look both ready to give up. Belak says, "You've broken everything that meant anything to me. Just kill me." And his frog attempts to bite back at Sheldon, apparently hitting and dealing 3 points of damage. At this, Sharwin says to you, "You've broken us from the spell, but we are driven to hate this man." She takes out her dagger and I believe walks towards you in order to get past you to potentially take out Belak. Sir Bradford still is aiming to destroy this frog. For 23 and 7 points of damage, he hits, and oof, the frog is no more. Now Belak is by himself. Dorian looks to you as if sensing some kind of alternative end to this. He goes and holds back Sir Bradford and says, "Hey, buddy, let the man go." And at this, Belak, no longer in combat, looks at you and says, "I've done so many things. I've destroyed families. I've killed people. I don't know how to return to this life."
Your first step, Kavan says, as he himself takes a step back. He was very wearied, very wounded himself, and quite short for breath. And he starts again. Your first step is to acknowledge that your future is your own to make, just as I once made mine. You can go to the surface. You can tell the people what it is that you did, what led you astray, and face fair justice. Or you can stay here in the darkness with no tree and simply covet the terrible creations you've made. Which would you choose, honestly? To know the brilliance of life once again, or to have some mockery of it, with this tree's magic, what remains of it?
And as you keep speaking, you feel your words having an overwhelming power to them. And as you speak and speak, the twig blights surrounding him throw their roots around his arms, tie him down, and the last word you utter creates this like silvery, peaceful light that seems to glow from the ceiling onto his face. And Belak is become docile. And he slips into a slumber. Well, Sharwin from behind you says, "What have you done to him?"
And Kavan shakes his head at that question as he turns his scimitars about and tucks them away. "I've done nothing," he says, "but I believe my lady watches over us tonight, and she has perhaps given him some form of peace. I do not yet know, but perhaps she will tell me herself in due time." And what of you and of you? And she's speaking, of course, to Sharwin and Sir Bradford, who actually is not familiar to him. Um,
Uh,
or is he?
as you speak to Sharwin, she suddenly you see her cough, and she kind of does this, and she is unable to breathe for a moment. And in that moment, Sir Bradford also has the same cough, as if they were both suffering from some kind of disease they're unable to, uh, well, fight off. Their bodies are incredibly just racked with this as they begin coughing in mad fits. And at that moment, um, the moonlight um, fades from Belak's eyes, and speaking through his eyes uh, are words that you've heard before. And it says, "You have saved them, at least from a brutal existence. These wanderers, these lost pilgrims, they did not find what they were searching for here in the dark, and yet they live."
Kavan recognizes the voice in his own way, and he looks to the ceiling and he asks of the moonlight high above, "My lady, what would you have me do? Two are dying, one is held to the ground by his own strange creations. They cannot be meant to stay here and suffer this way. Surely, at least those who are taken can live."
Um, the voice speaks out with otherworldly knowledge, and it simply says, "Take them to town. There you will find many who worship me like you. Some who have been worshipping longer than you have ever been alive, and who are masters of hiding those elements of society that others seek to root out and destroy. Do not just give them life and peace, give them hope."
And Kavan bows his head at this deeply and reverently, for he is, for him, it is a more common opportunity to speak to his own goddess, but even then, it is a rare thing, and to be in her presence, to speak to her directly, still gives him awe to this day. And he simply says, "I shall do as you will." And with that done, and presumably the voice finished speaking, he turns toward Dorian and Sheldon and explains to the two of them, "It is finished. If we bring them back to the town, evidently there is more to the people of Oakhurst than we thought, but perhaps not in a dark way. Perhaps they do have a long past, but not as Belak would tell it, or as he would have at one time. He's alive, and these two will live as well. Let us take their weapons, bring them back to the surface, and give them over to the townsfolk."
Um, at that, Dorian kind of nods his head and says, "Oh, yeah. I don't know what I saw there, but that tree is something else." Sheldon says, "It seems you have done your goddess a service. I hope to hear the voice of mine as well. Let us let us further engage in our missions to them, and hopefully we will bring more light upon this world.
Kavan is, as he's moving around to take the weapons from each of the three, just to be on the safe side, he speaks frankly for once to his companions. And he says, uh, if you doubt your worthiness, then I would not presume to speak for Lady Eldath, but I should say that both of you are far more worthy people than you think. You had no cause to follow me into this darkness, and I do not merely speak of the light, but this tree was a heart of darkness. You had no cause to follow me here, and yet you did. You risked your lives. And you, Dorian, well, you may think yourself a humble man, but you have done a heroic thing. And Sheldon, well, being a priest of the goddess of the grove, it was you calling upon the power of your faith that ultimately destroyed this corrupt tree. Do you not think it perhaps the acceptance of your goddess giving you such power in that moment of utmost importance? And he's wondering this aloud as he picks up the sword from Sir Bradford and tosses it in his hand for a moment, feeling that it's somehow a little different than he would expect, but um, he's just looking it over as he's offered these words to his companions, revealing that, well, there's a thoughtful soul in there somewhere.
Um, you do so, and Sheldon ruminates on it for a minute. He, seeing what he has saw, I think he replies, "You are different than some of us. Your background and your story, it necessitates a higher level than what we have with our gods and tradition."
No, no, no. Uh, I serve my Lady Selune, but at the end of the day, I pray to her just as you do. I believe firmly, seeing what I have seen, that the power you summoned down to destroy that tree was beyond anything our flames could have done, beyond anything my blades could have done. I believe Lady Eldath accepts you and has given you power to do right by the trees, the groves, by nature again. I believe she's accepted you back.
Um, as you say that, something I think wiggles in his pack. Sheldon takes out a book, and you see it's the same book that he pulled out a few sessions ago. And in one container, it seemed like it was full of silver, and another one, it seemed like it was a container filled with something else. And as his pack rumbles and shakes, you see that he pulls it out and he looks at his shaking book, and in it, uh, seeds are starting to sprout. You see these small shoots and twisted vines start kind of sprouting out of this small sachet in the middle of his book. Uh, and as they buzz around, uh, the book itself falls out of his hands and begins growing. on the dirt here in the Twilight Grove. When it starts to get quite tall, it becomes the shape and size of a sapling. And in that dirt, the sapling kind of grows and grows and grows and becomes almost a small tree as you watch before your eyes. And Sheldon says, "I take this as a sign, then."
I should take it as more than a sign, I believe. I believe that to be a message, if I know your Lady Eldath correctly. And he doesn't wish to solely give the credit to himself and to Sheldon. He looks to Dorian and he says, "You, my friend, uh, you seem to have lost your wish for gold in those last moments, or else you could have easily turned back rather than rushing forth with that fire."
Um, Dorian looks at you. He kind of flabbergasted. He says, "I reckon I did. All sorts of new leaves around here, I guess."
Yes, figuratively and literally, but it shows us that each man can grow, and I myself am changed by this place. Once again, I find myself in the Underdark, but I see an opportunity for salvation, even for the evils which sometimes fester in this place. Uh, these people are given a chance, at least, with the people of Oakhurst. There's something more to them, my lady tells me, and if we bring them back to the surface, they may know a life worth living again. Even him. And he nods toward Belak.
Dorian speaks up this time again, this time addressing you, and he says, "Yeah, seems you were chosen for this, doesn't it? To give, to be given, divine purpose." Hmm. I thought myself the same. What time? Long ago, when I left my village, I was one of the only surviving members, raised by a tribe of pillaging orcs and goblins. I swore myself never to give a damn about anything. That caring about things was a weakness. And well, I guess I've been lying to myself too. This money, this money is really just for me, so that I can spend it, find that village again.
Absolutely. If that is what you wish, your your destiny is yours to choose, my friend, but I should say you have become a man of destiny, if what I see before me is any indication, as he turns to look toward the fallen tree and the people that they've managed to save. And he indicates with a gesture of his hand, "Come, let's take them back up with us and um, perhaps do something about their faces before we do." He indicates perhaps using any cloaks or coverings they might have to hide who they are as they're bringing them back up.
Sure. Um, Dorian and Sheldon take out the similar masks and leather scraps and hoods, and they hand it over. You're able to mask, or at least mask Belak, whereas Sharwin and Sir Bradford wear these hood mantles. And as they kind of keep coughing, They look to each other and look at their fates, saying to each other essentially that they might be done for. This tree had a process to it that may be irreversible, and that figuring out a way for them to live without this tree, well, that might be the hardest mission of all.
And Kavan has one final thought. He sees the cavern around him, but he sees passage off to the northwest. And he wonders aloud as he is given a moment to actually think of such things. The dragon. What about the dragon? And he moves to look down the northwestern passage to see if through his dark vision he might spy anything.
Sure. You go off into the northwest now, maybe by yourself, taking a mental break. And as you do, more and more of those spores come out, and you gaze into this western area. There doesn't seem to be anything. But as you intake a fresh gulp of these spores, you're revealed some of the history in a vision. A Chardalon, you see these flashes. A Chardalon was a ruinous red dragon that spread its fire and destruction across this land. And when the citadel itself was built, it was built to worship that same amount of destruction. But also, it seems this temple was built to somehow resurrect him. You see these lines of file by the dozens of elves in hoods holding censers and prayer ornaments, as well as offerings, line up and drop them off at a plate, and each getting more and more elaborate as they went, until at the very end, see this one elf brings this bloody burlap sack open and places a giant heart, what seems like to be a literal giant's heart, on the offering table. And in these visions, none of these sacrifices work. Chardalon found no cure to mortality, or rather, he found no solution to live forever. And with that, you see the cult itself slowly start to dissolve. Less and less hooded figures show up to prayers, until one final day where someone comes in, not with an offering, but with a blade and a sacrament. On it are the very identifiable horns of a devil from one of the lower planes of hell, and a knife. And at this, some kind of dark necromantic ritual is completed. And you see this cultist suddenly rip open his robes, revealing scales all across his body as he transforms into some half dragon, half devil entity. As he leaves this place, the Sunless Citadel is in ruins. All of the cultists have either gone mad or ruined themselves in an attempt to keep or resurrect this ancient dragon. And that is when the citadel itself begins to crumble. Its magical fortifications keeping it mostly intact, but the ground beneath it suddenly attaining this magical heavy weight that drags it deeper and deeper into the earth, until only on the surface remains is a ravine.
And that, of course, requires a long moment for Kavan to take in. And all he can do in the wake of that long historical vision is to whisper, "Thank you as well, Lady Eldoth. I understand at last." And he turns about to address his companions, and he says, "Well, there's nothing more to be seen here," he says, sparing them the details of what he's been shown. "But another dragon for us to think about. What of the one with white scales?" And this is as he goes to pick up Belak, and apparently that's his choice for who to escort back.
Sure. And you gather yourselves in the party, ready to head to the surface, or at least up above the Twilight Grove level. And in your wake, you leave behind the burned out carcass of the Gulthias tree that is of no more. And right beside it, a small sapling, a sapling that grows faster than than its cousins would. Um, in this dark and dismal grove. Well, I'm ready to call it there. It's been a long
Oh,
session.
oh yes. This is a record breaker, I think, for the tabletop sessions. Absolutely, and it was fantastic. You really weren't lying when you said you worked on this.
Yeah, thank you. No, I did a bunch of reading and it really all coalesced today. So, I gotta say, Sunless Citadel, I feel like has a lot of content and history behind it, but you know, not everyone runs it to the T. So,
And I have to put, I'm putting it in my character notes. I've been keeping track of my inventory, and I'm putting next to that very valuable book, "Stupidly Burned Beneath Tree."
hey, it could still be of use later. And you know these trees. Oh man.
Somehow I
Yeah.
hoped it would release a genie. I don't know. Burning,
Um
burst into flames, something.
yeah, that's honestly like you're not too far off. The book itself based off the adventure actually has a glyph of warding inside of it.
Ooh,
I
ooh.
was actually kind of wondering, did you know that? Because
No, no, I didn't
it is
know.
it absolutely I don't like giving it to players or giving them option because it's like it's very easy to activate and deal 5d8 damage to yourself. You simply have to turn to the second page. Um, but yeah, that is very much a dangerous weapon in the right circumstance. Like if you'd given it and flipped it to the second page, like in front of the tree, it would have just exploded for 5d8 cold damage. So
Wow. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I had no idea. I was just thinking, it talks about fire and magic. If I throw it at the burning
hmm
tree, maybe something's gonna happen because I can't see him anyway.
I think I think in a more wacky story, I would have allowed you to roll to see if it flips to the second page randomly or not, like on just falling to the ground, and I would have just let it happen. I would have just let the bomb go off essentially.
Well, I'm happier with the way it concluded because this way, Sheldon sort of got his redemption, in a sense, just by virtue
Oh
of the
yeah.
dice. How spectacularly he destroyed that tree.
hmm Yeah,
And I
and
really
it was
liked it.
doing a lot of damage too. Like just setting it on fire will deal 1d4 fire damage, which the tree is weak to. It's got like 35 hit points, 10 AC. It's very much a thing you're allowed to attack, and I'm very happy in the last 2 games I've ran of this that people blew up the tree. Like they were smart enough to, or at least like, they were able to suss out that this tree is the cause of this corruption. And then then it just takes care of itself. You kill the tree, then all of the guys go back to normal, or at least some of them do. So
So, wow. Well, if we have time, I suppose there's a little bit of afterwork to clean up the loose threads of the story here. Um, First of all, we bring
sure.
them back to the surface, and I'm hoping the townspeople did indeed take them in.
hmm I
Uh,
think it's just it requires you to speak to a few people that you might not have spoken to, which I've also fully fleshed out. I think on the rush to get to the citadel itself, I was like, you can speak to these people before or ahead of time. Doesn't super matter. Um, there's a lot that you can be doing here that's more dungeon oriented. So
sure, sure. Um, I can just go under the assumption that they say, yeah, yes, we'll take care of them. Um,
yeah, no, we can address it next session if you'd like. My
sure.
plan is to essentially have you go back to the town and talk to some of the people there. They're absolute personalities there that can help you out with your further tasks and also lead you to the next thing you have.
Sure. The only other things I was going to do was I was going to return the signet ring, the one that I found, as
hmm
promised. I don't
Yep.
personally want a reward, but if my companions do, I don't take issue. Um,
hmm
I would try and give the books, saving for the druidic book to local scholar, perhaps. Again, if my companions don't object.
Sure.
The druidic book, I would ask them to keep for whatever druid should come to the region one day, and perhaps have them tell a story of a tree growing healthy now, very far below.
Sure.
And I suppose the last thing would be to have these various items I've picked up identified if someone locally can. And the wealth I'll give to Sheldon and Dorian to go on with their lives if they so choose to leave.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm making a note of that now actually. That this is what we're going to address next session.
And I'm not insisting that they have to go if you think they're going to want to chase after me, but I'm absolutely willing to give up the money and tell them, you've done your bit. Go live a happy life now.
I think very much in the next session, I want to introduce an organization to help you kind of manage your various party members, very much like Mass Effect. So this is, like if you're going to start going off and doing adventures, you still have a set of characters you can take with you.
Sure,
Um,
sure. That
and
sounds
so,
great.
yeah.
Um,
So essentially that, and then I think the stuff that you mentioned here. So I'm writing down sell books too. I had to write down my own thing, which is
oh,
mention plot hook for the next module.
since I've given my all to the role play tonight, I'll give in a little bit to the player before we close out here. Are you willing to tell me what the items are when I have them identified?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I have noted down. I've forgotten his name. The Knight's Sword.
hmm
I have Belak's staff, Sharwin's dagger, and the other tomes.
Yes. There's scrolls as well. Yeah. These are. I mean, I can just tell you right now. The fire scroll is a scroll of scorching ray. Acid Scroll is a scroll of Melf's Acid Arrow. The Knight's Sword is Shatter Spike. It is a +1 longsword that has certain property in it that allows you to crit whenever you hit an object. Belak has a wand of entanglement through which he casts entangle. And the tomes you found are 150 gold piece tomes. They're just worth a lot.
And Sharwin's dagger, just a dagger?
I believe that is just a dagger, correct.
Okay. And at some point, I don't know when I recorded it, but it's between Druidic Book and Draconic Book with Lamp, but I have noted down golden gems. You might have found them in the study.
Correct. That would have been 365 gold pieces and 4 agate gems worth 20 gold pieces each.
Okay, well, let's see. I think I gave, I can't remember if I noted this already or not. I think I gave 1 sapphire each to Dorian and Sheldon earlier. I didn't show them I had the other 3 I have noted.
I think you gave 2 to trade for the ring, Taugen's ring, correct?
Actually, yeah, you might be right. I did trade something for the ring, or was it?
I believe it was 2 sapphire gems. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have 3 sapphires noted on my inventory. But anyway, I don't know if you'd say I have 3 or 1 or 5. I'm not sure anymore.
I believe you have 3.
Okay.
Because you found 5, which you might have miswritten down as 4 originally. And so, yeah. So you had 5 from fighting the elementals, and then you traded away 2 for the ring, I believe. Which the ring itself is only worth about 10 gold pieces, but the bounty on the ring is worth much more.
What was that worth anyway? 150?
125 for each ring, and then another 125 if you find the person who it's attached to alive. So since you're bringing Sharwin in alive and with her ring, she is worth 250 for that bounty.
Okay, and the sapphires?
The sapphires are 10 gold pieces each.
Okay, let me just do something here really quick. That is, if I am not wrong, all around, since I gave the books, other than the Druidic book, away freely, that is 800 gold. So Dorian and Sheldon get 400 gold each.
Well, nice.
And the items, I suppose, I'll just take with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I could take them back to Waterdeep and buy myself something nice, but it seems only fair that they get their bit.
Well, sounds good. I'll put that in the character sheets. All right.
So that's all of the books out of my inventory. It's the signet ring and the gems all gone. 64 gold gone. And so that leaves me with the +2 perception ring by scent, shatter spike, the wand of entanglement, and plain dagger. Which I'll probably just give someone in the village who looks like they need something, a tool or something. So yeah, I am more than beyond impressed. That was great. Really great inclusion, great adventure overall. I liked your expansion upon it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that isn't put there, but I like to conclude it. And I gotta say, it's great playing with a player like yourself because it's you get into the bits that like you think about as a DM that doesn't always get expressed in gameplay. So it's really good to get those deep dives into like what are their motivations for this character and why are they so incompatible or compatible, right? So
Yeah, I kind of felt like I was opening myself up to something there when I did alter self to look like Belak and talk to himself, but I thought, my character would kill an evil thing, but he's not convinced it isn't the tree, so um, by his nature and by who he serves, he'd try one more thing before
sure.
doing the deed.
And I mean, the alter self also just made a lot of sense from like a story perspective, right? Like you're a
Yeah,
ranger, he's a druid, and you both come from this, kind of troubled background.
yeah, and he was trying to remind him of who he was before he became who he was, and apparently it worked. Um, and of course, I have to ask, is this a milestone?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and take that level 4. You've done plenty
Ooh,
of
ooh.
fighting and role playing.
All right, wonderful. And
So next session we'll probably pick up with us in Oakhurst, trying to figure out where to go next after this kind of uh, whirlwind encounter.
okay, well, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Excellent storytelling, and as always, we really appreciate you coming out to tell any story for the viewers for good cause. GM Tangy, if there's anything you'd like to say to anyone before we go, you're more than welcome.
Nothing except really enjoyed the games that we played. Let's see where this one-on-one adventure keeps going because I've got plans to include much more of Faerun's adventures. Essentially, expanded upon, filled out, fleshed out adventures from Tales from the Yawning Portal.
Oh yes, and that is important to point out to everybody is that for so long as GM Tangy wants to continue on with this, we'll be having him back every week. So if you enjoy this, well, be sure to be with us every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Usually it doesn't go on this long, but tonight was a little special. Um, and with that said, I will wish you guys a wonderful night, and we'll be back on. Wow, it's past midnight. We'll actually be back tomorrow, technically speaking, with another stream. So, that said, you guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you then.